Well, thank you so much for joining us, Praise. We've been doing a series of interviewing and talking with some different missionaries that have been are working in the field, even in this kind of difficult season. And as we've been interviewing and talking to different missionaries, it's been really just incredible to see how God is at work even right now and what he's calling them into. And today we have some tremendous missionaries that I have just been hearing great things about from people that I value highly and think the world of. And so when I keep hearing the same name come up over and over again, I think, okay, we got to get in touch with these people. And so that's kind of how I've been introduced to and want to share with you and introduce to you our missionaries today, Melvin and Sherry Watson. Hello, all. How are you doing?
Hello, we're doing great. I'm Melvin, and Sherry is sitting next to me.
And so you all are missionaries with U.S. Maps RV Ministry. Can you just share a little bit with our people who maybe don't have a lot of exposure to what that ministry looks like? What is RV Ministries?
RV Ministries is where a group of about 900 people are a member of this, and we travel all over the U.S. and we build new church properties for the Assemblies of God, and we also remodel new church properties for the Assemblies of God. And this has been going on now for how many years, sweetie?
30 years.
It's been going on now for 30 years, and so I was a drywall finisher and a painter for many years. And so I wanted to join this because I had witnessed that they needed some assistance in doing their sheetrock finishing. And so God opened the door and we walked in, and that's what we do is we build churches where Jesus changes lives.
Yeah. So you all, you base out of where?
Go ahead, Sherry.
We're based out of Mississippi, and then we can travel from there. We're nationally appointed missionaries to the United States, so we're able to travel wherever. But our base has been mainly in the Gulf region, which includes Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee,
Louisiana, Mississippi.
Louisiana, and Mississippi. So anyway, that's kind of, and we've been to Texas, we've been to Kansas, but we find that we were most effective in the southern type Gulf region. We're most effective in that area, reaching out to churches that have that need.
Yeah. Do you mind me? I mean, this is a sidestep. How I've been kind of following along with, Hurricane Laura, and of course we're involved with and have participated with Convoy of Hope in the past, and so of course disaster relief. What does that look like in that whole region? Of course, Mississippi, Louisiana, that Gulf area, Louisiana primarily, hit, or was it more Texas area that was really pounded? What does that look like in all that area?
It came in along the Louisiana coast, and it devastated one small community just right there along the beach area. There's not much of it left. Most of what is left is going to be torn down. So there's just catastrophic devastation. Fortunately, it shifted a little bit more toward Mississippi, and they did not get the 20-foot storm surge as they thought they were going to get. So a lot of people were spared. And as it moved farther north, it got into the Lake Charles area, and it did quite a bit of damage there. And to my knowledge, we probably have four churches that received damage in the Lake Charles area. And one of the churches that I'll be going to is in the Sulphur area of Louisiana, which is on the outskirts of Lake Charles. And they got hit very hard. They're going to tear down about half of their church. And sadly to say, as they were in the process of tearing, and their parsonage, or the home in which they were living in, whenever they were doing the work on the church, trying to get things tore down and set up and what have you, with Convoy of Hope and others that were coming in, they were in bed Thursday night and they smelled smoke, and their home burned down and they lost all of their belongings. The pastor and his wife lost all of their belongings. I talked to the pastor, Brother Donnie Crane, one day this weekend, and he talked to me about it, and so he's very upbeat about it. He says it was only stuff, and we were able to save photos and mementos and stuff like that. We're trying to dry it out, but the aftermath has been really more devastating to them than the actual storm was. God's house was damaged, but whenever it involved them personally and their things were destroyed, it became personal to them.
Right.
And so I'll be going there. He's also the administrator of their local campground. And their local campground, about an hour away, there were tree limbs and things tore up over there, but it was not any structural damage. And so all up and down Louisiana, if you follow the Mississippi River and you go on up, and even in Natchez, Mississippi, there was some damage there. We got a lot of rain on the east side of the river, but Louisiana was hit the worst. And so most of your damage is going to be personal dwellings and commercial properties all up and down the Louisiana, Mississippi River line up until you get to, well, actually it followed that area all the way up to the top of our state. And then it took a right in Arkansas and went on out of sight within a few days. But there's a great need there. They are the farther they get into this, the more help they're going to need. When they start putting things back together, they're going to need a whole lot of help there. Right now, they need a lot of help in cleaning things out, cleaning homes out. There are homes there that can be salvaged. This is not their first flood or their first storm to experience,
right,
where all of the muck out of the swamps get washed back into their homes. But it's been a long time, but they know what to do, and they're very strong people that live there. But they need our help. First, physically, they need our help, but spiritually, they definitely need our help. In that, whenever Katrina hit Mississippi, all we heard about was New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans, New Orleans. So Mississippians took that personally. But now with all this mess that's going on all over our nation, the news media is talking about all of the violence that's going on across our nation, Black Lives Matter, and all of that's going on. And so that's where all the news media has centralized their news media.
Mm-hmm.
And so Louisiana is feeling like they are getting left out, where people across the nation will know, hey, we're here. We're trying to come to terms with what's going on in our city and in our communities, but we need your help. So they're getting not very much promo from the news media so that people will know what's going on. Eventually, everybody in Mississippi, Louisiana, and in that area that was damaged by Katrina, we received a whole lot of help from all across the nation. There will be not just a few days of recovery, not just a few weeks of recovery, not just a few months of recovery. There will be years of recovery. I can take you to communities that were hit by Katrina that they never recovered. Slabs are still there. Homes were not rebuilt. Businesses were not rebuilt. And hopefully that won't happen in Louisiana, but it will take years to recover. And so they need our help.
Yeah. So when you mentioned, because I hadn't thought about that aspect of RV ministries specific to disaster relief. Is that something, as you're going, are there other RVers, MAPS workers that are going to be, sorry, not MAPS, but RV workers that are going to be coming in and helping in that regard?
Yes. One of the first groups that came in was a group out of West Virginia that they're not AG, but they were very organized in that while the storm had not hit Louisiana, they had already put together their group. And by the time the storm left Lake Charles, they were already setting up in the parking lot at the Sulphur, Louisiana church parking lot. Now, they were very organized. It took us a little while longer to get any of our people there from MAPS or from RVers or even from the Assemblies of God. But I was just very excited that someone would have it so together that they were there before the storm even got out of sight. And so, yes, there will be more that will go there, and they will go there to clean out. And from Mississippi, we have our emergency response department here in the state of Mississippi. And our director is already over there helping clean out not just churches, but homes. And so we too will be working on doing that kind of thing. Then whenever the clean out work is done, our focus as MAPS RV ministry will go towards putting the churches back together and helping the churches recover from their devastation. Now, eventually, it's in the makings for the RV ministry to be more involved in the disaster response. And I'm looking forward to that, where we can go in and we can help people put their homes back together, not just for a few weeks, but long term.
Right. Okay. So what is your specific, how did you, if you don't mind me kind of, because I hear a little bit about where you guys are at right now, what the Lord's kind of got immediately in front of you. Do you mind backing up a little bit and then just kind of talking me through how God brought you into this ministry, how you became, missionaries in regards to it, and maybe some of your experience there?
We were pastors for 14 years in a community called Crystal Springs, which is about 20 miles south of where we live. And my husband, at that point in time, he was working on a church across the street from our Mississippi district office. And he had volunteered to do the drywall finishing for free for a pastor friend. We didn't know anything about US Maps, never heard of it, nothing. So he went, and in fact, when he showed up, there was three elderly gentlemen that were working on the church, framing it up, doing it all, and they were kind of upset because my dad actually paid for the drywall to be hung, and then Melvin was going to finish it, or Melvin did finish it. But anyway, in saying all of that, when Melvin found out what they were doing, and why they were doing what they were doing for nothing, he said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. In fact, they came down and we had taken on a church that was district supervised that needed a lot of physical help. And they came down and painted the outside of the church for us while they were working on that building after Melvin went in and finished the drywall very quickly because, that's what he does. But anyway, in saying that, that's how we got. At that point in time, we were in our 40s, or we had just got into our 40s. Anyway, when he saw that, I never met them. I didn't, but he got to work with them. He said, that's what I want to be later. And so when Katrina hit, he was doing a lot of work, construction work down on the Gulf Coast. And God began to change our focus, and we began to appeal to the U.S. Missions Department about becoming full-time U.S. missionaries with the MAPS department, with the idea to give away his work. That's why we got into what we're doing. And he's real good at what he does. And he's great at remodeling. So this type of storm devastation, is right up his alley as far as that goes. Me personally, I'm not a construction person. I'm not good at it. That's not my call. My call is more in the administrative part of what we do. That's what I'm good at. But he's very good at what he does, and we're very thankful to be part of this ministry. We've been part of it for now 10 years.
When we decided to go this route, when we finally got a conference with the previous director there, Jerry Bell, he had told me, so we've never done it that way before. All the missionaries up to me had a position. They were regional missionaries. But at that point, I didn't care to have a regional position. I wasn't looking for a position. I'm a servant, and I wanted to serve. I wanted to give my work away, and I was good at it, and I was fast at it. And so whenever I went to meet with him, he said, well, we've never done it that way before. He said, but I do have the authority to let you come in as a missionary associate. And then you can be kind of working on raising a budget. And while I run this by people that I have to be submissive to, that are over me in authority, I have to have it approved by them. And so I worked for a while as a missionary associate, and he called me up one day and he said, okay, you ready to do this? He said, because I got the approval, you can be a U.S. missionary with no position. I said, that's exactly what I want to do. And so that's how I got there. Brother Jerry, his son had been tragically lost his life during that season. And it took a while to get access to Brother Jerry, but eventually I did. And so that's how I got there. I love it. I love serving. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So when you mention, because obviously you all going and helping and serving in Lake Charles or other places that may be affected, are there other RVers that might come along? I know many aren't necessarily through the U.S. Missions Department or even through RV U.S. Maps. Like, what does that look like? Do you coordinate others as well to kind of get like
yes.
a team in?
During this season that we're in with the storm damage, my position will be to coordinate the church teams that come in. Some will probably bring RVs and some will come to stay long-term, especially retired people that are wanting to be servants. They'll come in. Right now, there's nowhere for anybody to hook up because there's still no power.
Right.
There's no electricity because your major supply lines and the towers were destroyed. So that's kind of getting a slow start, but my job will be to kind of oversee that. Now, the district has a point man, and as their point man, he will instruct me where he will need our volunteers to go to, and I will instruct them what area of the Lake Charles area that they will need to go to help individuals as they clean out their homes, throw away trash, and pick up debris. And so that's what I'll do, is I will be the coordinator for the MAPS RV ministry.
Okay, well, very cool. So I've heard a little bit about where you're at right now and kind of where you came from and how God brought you into this ministry. As you look kind of towards the future, do you see yourselves working more in disaster relief, or is it serving churches that may just need construction? So Praise has actually, and I maybe should have mentioned this from the beginning, Praise has benefited from RV ministry and U.S. Maps. We have people who work in that department or have worked in that department at the national office, and so we're able to get us connected. And so we personally have benefited and have supported on a larger scale. So just as someone who has benefited from that, as I think for you, as you're looking towards the future and how you see the Lord kind of leading you moving forward, what does that look like?
Our department is in a change mode right now. and we're going through disaster response training in February. So to answer your question is kind of difficult considering that we're not really sure. We're willing, we're teachable, and certainly have a heart for people. We've been pastors, so we understand, you know, from the standpoint of a pastoral viewpoint, the need there. Because as you well know, we're in the end times. So therefore, we're going to see more and more of this type stuff. So I think we need to be ready in whatever area that we need to be able to serve. But our department is in a change mode. So training for disaster response is coming about in February. We have already been through a lot of training in that area back during Katrina, just because of what happened to our state. So we're familiar with destruction and we're familiar with that, but you know, we need more training. So therefore we are going through training. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does seem like there's a little bit of a pivot happening that seems to even be the Lord who's bringing it about. And again, just that attitude where you express, where it's just teachable and ready to receive and follow whatever the Lord's, you know, step by step it might be for you. So that's just a beautiful approach, and I'm sure, I know the Lord will honor it, as I've watched him do that in other situations, certainly. Do you mind and as we talk about missionaries, one of the big things, the ways that churches can participate, of course, is through prayer. And we do pray for, you know, our missionaries and for those who are being impacted in a lot of these disaster situations. The other side of it is financial. Do you mind just kind of giving us a little bit, just as we kind of dive in? I know there's having to raise your own funds as a missionary. It's one of those things you go about and you travel, and we had hoped to have you here at Praise on a Wednesday night, and we had to postpone those Wednesday nights for a bit. And so as part of that, I wanted to give you an opportunity to still share with the church. And I always want to know, what does that look like for you all? I know a lot of missionaries have a certain percentage of support with COVID. Some have been impacted. What does that look like for you?
We've been impacted in the last month. We've probably lost about $300 in support in the last month, which has an effect naturally. Going to Lake Charles is not going to be cheap. So yes, we need more financial support because we have seen where some have either cut support or can no longer support due to the fact they were affected by COVID. So yes, we have been affected some by COVID, yet we've also seen the Lord come in and get a check in the mail, you know, that meets that lack that you didn't have. But yet we still, as U.S. missionaries, we are constantly raising funds because it comes and goes all the time. That's just the nature of the game. But this is a very expensive ministry. Nobody pays for our fuel to go somewhere. Nobody pays for the RV. Nobody pays for any of that. So that has to come out of our funds in order for us to be able to effectively minister. Minister.
Okay. Sounds good. Do you mind if somebody were wanting to get connected, just sharing the best way for them to do that? If that's your social media accounts, how they might connect with you in order to give, or if they wanted to learn more about you all and what you're doing, is there a good way they might be able to connect?
They can go to Facebook and they can either tap into become Melvin Watson's friend or become mine. My name is Sherry Joyner Watson. And we would be glad to inform them of that at that point in time and, you know, tell them the ways that they could effectively support us if they would like to.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing a little bit about what the Lord has done and what he's doing now. If there was one thing that we could just kind of leave our people with to be praying for you about right now, what would that be?
We need to recruit more volunteers. They don't have to have an RV. In this day and age in which we're living in, a couple may find it cheaper, and let's get real, an RV is not an investment. Whenever you buy an RV, you're always working on them. You're putting out more than you're getting. And so, but you may find it where it's cheaper for you and more financially feasible if you get a hotel room and volunteer a week of your time and just have a hotel bill at the end of the week, and you're done with it. You don't have to buy tires. You don't have to put diesel in a unit. You don't have to fix the air conditioner. You don't have to buy gas for your rig. And so that's what we need. All across our fellowship, we need volunteers. We have a lot more projects than we have volunteers. And that's number one on my list is if you have a craft or you have a trade and you would be willing to volunteer a week or 2 weeks of your time, it doesn't always have to be all at once. You can come and work a weekend. And a skilled tradesman can do more in a weekend than a volunteer that has learned the how to do those particular things by watching somebody else. But you take a tradesman can go and do more in a weekend than that volunteer can do in 2 weeks. So that's what we need. We need volunteers.
Okay. Well, we'll be praying with you.
And one other thing, our daughter has stage 4 ovarian cancer, and we do need prayer in that area.
Okay. Well, we will be praying with you to that end, and we're going to be asking our church to be praying with you as well. And praise, thank you so much for joining us today. If you would just be praying for the Watsons, be praying for the RV ministry, be praying for the Lord to bring along volunteers, and maybe he would even speak to your heart and have you give or participate financially beyond just prayer, giving of your finances to the Watsons, or maybe he would call you to go and to participate and to volunteer as well and get in touch with and participate with the RV ministries. Watsons, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been a blessing, and I've enjoyed hearing your heart for the ministry, where you've been, where you are, and where God is taking you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you all today, and thank you, Praise. We appreciate you.